I didn't know her well. That's what keeps hitting me. We went out 3 times, 3 little dates. No drama, no awkward ghosting. We just didn't click. I thought I was being decent about it, told her I wasn't in the right place emotionally. She smiled, said she understood, told me to take care of myself. I actually left that conversation thinking, wow, that went better than expected. That was 6 months ago. Now I check my back seat before getting in the car. I sleep with a bar wedged under my doorknob in my apartment, and I think about the tone of her voice when she finally said it out loud. You should have given me more time. We met through a dating app. She was smart, a software engineer who freelanced out of her apartment. Quiet with a dry sense of humor. Honestly, she came off a little awkward, but I chalked that up to being introverted. She didn't have much of an online presence. That should have been a red flag. No Instagram, Facebook barely updated. No tagged photos anywhere. She told me she liked it that way. Clean profile, clean life. I didn't think much of it at the time. The first weird thing happened about 3 weeks after it ended. I got a call from my landlord's office. They said someone had requested to reset my entry code for the building, and it looked like the request came from my email address. I told them to ignore it. I brushed it off, but looking back, that was probably the first knock on the door, the one I didn't hear. Then my phone started glitching. It would heat up in my pocket while idle, battery draining fast, random permissions turned back on. One day I got a push notification I didn't recognize, some system-level app I never installed. I brought my phone to a repair shop. The technician took one look and said it had clearly been hacked, jailbroken without my knowledge. I didn't believe him. I don't know how to do that, and no one I know could either. He shrugged and said he didn't know what else to tell me. That's when I started to panic. This wasn't just some random glitch anymore. Someone had been inside my phone, and I didn't know why or how. I bought a new phone that day, didn't restore from backup, started fresh. But the feeling of vulnerability didn't go away. A couple of days later, I was eating at the restaurant where we'd had our second date. It's one of my favorite spots. That's when it hit me. She'd mentioned over dinner she freelanced working on security tools, testing systems for vulnerabilities and weaknesses. I hadn't paid much attention at the time. It was all pretty boring, to be honest. But now it made sense. She knew exactly what she was doing. That was around the time I started noticing someone in a gray hoodie at my gym. I go late, usually after 10 p.m., and it's never crowded. This person never worked out, just lingered around the front or near the machines. Sometimes pretended to stretch, hood up every time. I told myself I was being paranoid. Until I walked out one night and found a sticky note under my windshield wiper. It said, "Doing better, I see." A few days after that, building security called me down to the office. They showed me footage from the hallway cameras. Someone in a gray hoodie had been trying every door on my floor around 3 a.m. They lingered at my door the longest, almost 3 full minutes. Security asked if I recognized them. That's why they called me in. I didn't even have to look twice. I knew who it was. I finally put it all together and knew what was going on. I filed a police report instantly. They told me unless she physically harmed me or was caught trespassing, there wasn't much they could do. I even showed them the footage of her in front of my apartment. It was still not enough. Not a direct threat, they said. I tried digging for more information, anything that could tell me who she really was. Old profiles, usernames, work history. Nothing stuck. Either she never used social media like most people do, or she scrubbed it all. That's when her words came back to me. Clean profile, clean life. I thought it was just something she said to sound edgy. Now I realized it was a strategy. I kept my routines unpredictable, changed passwords again, avoided posting anything online. But weird things still happened. I started getting password reset emails for sites I hadn't used in years. Forums, old email accounts, even a work login, things long buried. One day I opened my navigation app and noticed my saved places had changed. Home was labeled something else. Work had the wrong address. There was a new entry, just an emoji, a bullseye target symbol. It led to a small park on the edge of town, the same place I used to go to clear my head when things got tough at work. I hadn't been there in over a year and never entered that location into my phone. Then came the coffee shop. It was a place I used to go to all the time, my old favorite spot. But I hadn't been back in months, not since things with her started getting weird. That day I picked it randomly. As I waited for my drink, someone behind me said, "Back to old habits, huh?" I froze. Her voice wasn't just familiar. It was cold, too cold. I didn't turn around. I left right then without even taking my drink. As I reached the door, she said it, low but clear. "You should have given me more time." That was the moment the problem was in my face. The final confrontation came last month. I'd been staying at a friend's place for a while, trying to keep a low profile. No routines, no posting anything, no contact. One night I went back to my apartment just to grab some clothes. I thought it was safe. I hadn't seen any signs of her in weeks. I went up, grabbed what I needed, and headed back down. I opened the front door of my car and paused. That's when I saw her sitting in the back seat, hood pulled up, waiting. She smiled and said, "I was hoping you'd show up. We need to talk." I don't remember what I said. I just took a step back away from my car. She exited the car slowly and started walking towards me, steady, unhurried, and unnervingly confident. I fumbled through the things I'd grabbed from the apartment, dropping everything except a thick book. When she got close, I swung it hard, hitting her in the side of the head. She screamed and stumbled backward. I didn't wait around. I jumped into my car and drove off. About an hour later, the police called me. They'd found her nearby, loitering outside a convenience store down the street, with a bag of ice pressed to her face. I wish I could say it ended there, but the police found detailed notes on me in her apartment, maps, passwords, metadata from old messages, screenshots of my online activity. She had been tracking me for over 5 months. I still don't know how much of my life she accessed, or if she shared any of it with someone else. All I know is this: you can lock your doors, you can wipe your phone, you can vanish from the internet, but if someone really wants to find you, and they know how, they will. That was the end of our first story. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Hit like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the content so far. And don't forget the notification bell. I'd love for you to send me your scary experiences to be read on this channel, whatever they might be. The sites to send them to are up on the screen. Now there will be no further interruptions from me. And here are the rest of the stories. The third time I ran into her, I stopped believing it was a coincidence. She was standing there by the coffee truck at Patterson Park, right as I came around the loop with my dog. She smiled like she always had, soft, a little crooked, like nothing had happened between us, like we were still together, like she hadn't screamed at me in a Safeway parking lot 6 weeks ago. "Hey," she said casually, like we were just two people in the same city, living the same life. We had never been to this park together. I don't even live in that neighborhood. "Hey," I said, forcing a breath through my teeth. I didn't stop walking. My dog tugged forward. I kept my pace and she watched me go. It had started quietly, the kind of breakup that seemed calm on the surface, but then ended loud and messy. Kate wasn't the kind of person who usually yelled. That wasn't her default. She preferred quieter tactics, guilt, manipulation, long silences that made you second-guess everything. But when she didn't get her way, when you really told her no, she snapped, like she did that night in the parking lot. When I ended things, she'd look at me with those glassy eyes and said, "You're making a huge mistake, but I understand. Some people aren't strong enough for real love." Then she texted me the next day, and the day after, and the day after that. I blocked her, but she found new methods of contact. One of our mutual friends, Jess, messaged me 2 weeks later and said, "Girl, Kate's worried about you. She says you're not yourself." I didn't respond. Jess texted again a day later. "She just wants to talk, for closure. I think you owe her that much, don't you?" That one hit. Owe her? For what? Surviving? A few days later, I started getting calls from an unfamiliar number, likely a prepaid phone. I'd answer and there'd only be silence on the other end of the line. It was always late, 1 a.m., 3:27, 2:41. I never answered after the first time, but I'd wake up groggy, irritated, sometimes so frustrated I could cry, the phone still glowing on the nightstand. The first time I saw the car, it was parked across the street from my building. The side and rear windows were tinted dark enough to block a clear view inside, but the windshield was clear. One night, through that windshield, I thought I saw a figure sitting in the driver's seat, just staring straight at my building. It was always parked at strange hours, late at night or early morning. It sat there for hours, engine off, like it was waiting for something. That's when I knew it wasn't just a coincidence. I started walking a few blocks over to catch a lift, just to avoid going near it. A week later, I saw her again, this time outside the grocery store by my work. We'd never shopped there together. She didn't even work near that part of town. But there she was, at the flower stand, thumbing through the wilting daisies like she belonged there. She didn't look surprised to see me. "Funny running into you again," she said. I didn't say a word, just walked past her like she was a stranger, but my hands were shaking when I got to the self-checkout. That night, someone knocked on my door, just once. When I opened it, no one was there, but there was a note taped under the peephole. On it was written the words, "You can't avoid me forever. I see you." I sat on the floor, back against the door for over an hour. I started doubting myself. Was I overreacting? Was she even dangerous? She hadn't threatened me, not directly. Jess texted again. "I saw her yesterday. She's not okay. Just meet her once. She needs closure." Closure. That word again. It started sounding like code for control. I told Jess I wasn't comfortable. She left me on red. One evening, I was walking back to my car after grabbing groceries. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a few cars scattered around. I hadn't seen her in weeks, so I didn't expect to find Kate leaning against the lamppost near my car, watching me. As I approached, she straightened and gave me a slow, calm smile, the kind that made my skin crawl. Without a word, she stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "I've been trying to reach you," she said softly, voice steady but cold. I tried to step around her, but she grabbed my wrist hard enough to leave a sting. "Why won't you just talk to me?" she whispered, her eyes darkening. I told her firmly, "This needs to end." She leaned in closer, her grip tightening, her breath hot against my neck. "You think you can walk away? You don't get to erase me." I didn't fight back, but dropped my groceries and tried to put space between us. She jerked me back before I could round the car and break free, throwing me into the side door. I winced as her nails scraped my arm. Then she grabbed hold of my hair and roughly dragged me a few steps before throwing me onto the hood of the car. Footsteps echoed nearby. Someone else was coming. She let go to look behind her, and that's when I ran away into the night. Police picked her up at her apartment the next morning. I'd gone straight to the hospital after the attack. The bruises and scratches on my arms and neck were enough to file a report. They took my statement and took photos. When they brought her in, she denied everything, said I'd overreacted, that I was just upset. But it was enough. Between my injuries and the witness in the parking lot and the pattern of harassment, they charged her with felony assault. She pleaded down, accepted a deal. Now she's on probation with an ankle monitor and a no-contact order that finally seems to mean something. I thought things were finally calming down between me and Ethan. We'd been broken up for a few months, but he still found ways to get under my skin. Mostly it was texts or calls at weird hours. Nothing threatening, just constant reminders that he wasn't ready to let go. One night, things blew up. We got into a nasty phone argument. I was tired, frustrated, and done explaining myself. He wasn't hearing a word I said. Instead, he kept twisting everything, accusing me of cheating, lying, even saying I didn't care about his family. I told him to stop calling, to stop texting, that this was over. That night, he sent me a last text saying, "You'll regret this." I thought it was just empty threats until the next afternoon. My family was having a cookout in the backyard. Nothing big, just burgers and beers to celebrate Dad's birthday. I was sitting with my brother Matt when I saw Ethan pull up in his beat-up truck. My stomach dropped. He didn't even knock or ring the doorbell. He just walked right into the yard like he owned the place. My dad was grilling, my little sister was playing with the dog, and here he was, totally uninvited. I stood up slowly, my voice shaking when I said, "Ethan, you need to leave." He sneered and started yelling, his voice loud enough to stop the music and turn every head. I tried to walk away, but Matt stepped between us. "You're not welcome here," he said flatly. Ethan's eyes flicked to Matt like he just realized this wasn't going to be easy. Dad put down the spatula and stepped forward. Without a warning, he swung and punched Ethan hard in the eye. Ethan staggered back, clutching his face. Matt took the moment and rushed forward, knocking the wind out of Ethan with a solid blow to the stomach. Ethan doubled over, gasping for air, then fell to the ground. Neighbors started peeking over fences. My little sister was crying now. I just stood frozen. After a few seconds, Ethan glared up at us, spitting out curse words. "This isn't done," he muttered, then slowly got up and left. That was the last time I saw him. Since then, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. No more texts, no more calls, no more random visits. Dad and Matt didn't say much after it happened, but I knew they had my back. That meant everything. I still get nervous sometimes, like he might come back. But every time I think about that day, I remember they're here to protect me, and that's enough. I got home late from work last night, around 9:30, and when I bent down to unlock my front door, I noticed something under the edge of the doormat. It was a house key. I thought maybe I dropped one of mine, but when I pulled out my key ring, they were all there. This one looked older, maybe a little worn down. No label or tag, just a basic silver key. Out of curiosity and honestly a weird sense of dread I couldn't explain, I tried it in the lock. It worked perfectly. That's when my stomach dropped. There was no reason for a spare key to be out here, let alone one that could open my apartment. I've never left a key under the mat at this place. I live alone. I don't even have a roommate who might have done it. And I sure as hell haven't given a key to anyone else. The only person who's ever had a key to any place I've lived in was my ex, Jason, and I made sure to change the locks after we broke up. I didn't even go inside. I just stood there for a minute, holding the key and staring at the door like it might open on its own. Then I got back in my car, locked the doors, and drove to my sister's place without even going back for my bag. I haven't slept much since, and for context, Jason and I dated in college. He was charming at first, in that love-bombing kind of way that felt intense and exciting, until it wasn't. The control issues crept in slowly. He'd guilt me for going out without him, call me 10 times in a row if I didn't reply fast enough, accuse me of flirting with any guy I so much as talked to. It got bad. The kind of bad where I started lying about where I was going just to avoid an argument. When I finally left, it wasn't clean. He flooded my phone with texts and voicemails. Showed up to my old apartment once and left flowers at my job another time. No card, just the kind of bouquet you'd send to a funeral. After that, I blocked him everywhere. I changed my number. I even moved, twice actually, and I never posted my address online. I hadn't heard from him in over a year, and here's the part that's really freaking me out. I keep thinking about little things that didn't make sense over the last few weeks. Things I brushed off at the time, like how one morning I found my front door unlocked when I was absolutely sure I had locked it the night before. Or how my bathroom cabinet was open, not just a crack, but wide open, with the contents inside slightly rearranged. I thought maybe I was being forgetful or tired. I even joked about ghosts to a friend last week when I noticed the drawer where I kept my socks was half open and the folded stacks looked different, like someone had taken a pair and tried to put everything back the way it was. But now I'm starting to realize I might not have been alone. I didn't want to believe it before, but it's hard not to see the pattern now. The key under the mat wasn't just left behind. It was placed there for me to find, like some sick way of saying, I've been here, I still can be. I'm going to the leasing office first thing tomorrow to demand the locks be changed. Not just rekeyed. I want a brand new lock. If they won't do it, I'll pay for it myself. I'm also filing a police report. I don't have solid proof it's Jason. No camera footage, no texts, no name. But this key and the weird signs of someone being in my place are enough for me. Even if they can't do much, I want it documented. I don't feel safe anymore, not in my home, not even in daylight. I haven't told many people about this, just my sister and one close friend. I don't want to seem dramatic, but part of me is scared that if I don't take this seriously now, I'll regret it later. There's something about that key, about how quietly it was left, that feels worse than if someone had broken a window or trashed the place. It means they didn't need to force their way in. They already had access. If it was Jason, and I really think it was, then he's been here, maybe even while I was sleeping. And if he still has another copy of that key, or knows how to get one, I don't know what he might do next. I thought I was done with him, Alex, my ex, the guy who made my life a nightmare for 2 years. At first, he was sweet, and that obsessive clingy way you almost mistake for passion. Always texting good morning, always asking when I'd be home, always wanting to protect me. But it didn't take long for that to curdle. He started accusing me of lying about everything, who I talked to, where I went, what I wore. If I didn't answer a text within 10 minutes, I'd get 5 more, all of them angry. One night, he showed up at my apartment because I didn't pick up my phone while I was in the shower. He'd even scroll through social media looking for guys who liked my posts. Once, he even went through my phone while I was asleep and grilled me the next day about some old college text from a friend I hadn't spoken to in years. Everything turned into a fight. I stopped going out. I stopped talking to friends. I just wanted things to stay calm, to not set him off. I thought if I was careful enough, it would pass. It didn't. It only got worse. When I finally left him, it felt like a prison break. I changed my number, tightened every privacy setting on my social accounts. I thought I was finally safe, but apparently I wasn't. It started with photos taped to my car windshield. At first, I thought, who the hell does this? There was no way it was random or a prank. These were pictures of me taken from far away, but clear enough to know it was definitely me. That's when the knot in my stomach tightened. Then the text started coming in late at night. 1 word, sometimes 2. Things like watching, home, outside. I ignored them and blocked the number, but then similar messages showed up in my DMs on Instagram and Facebook from accounts I didn't recognize. No profile pictures, no followers, just the same short messages. always sent around 2 or 3 a.m. One night, I heard a soft scratching sound at my front door. I looked through the peephole. A man I recognized instantly was standing there. It was Alex. I didn't open the door. I backed away, locked myself in the bedroom, and called the police from the floor of my closet, my hand shaking so badly I could barely hit the numbers. They showed up maybe 10 minutes later, but Alex was already gone. What stuck with me was how calm he looked, not frantic or angry, just patient, like someone waiting for something to happen on his schedule. The cops told me to document everything. They couldn't arrest him for standing outside, and technically nothing had been stolen. That night I barely slept. I kept thinking back over the last month, wondering what else I'd missed. Like how the thermostat had been turned off when I got home one night, even though I hadn't touched it. Or how I'd woken up twice thinking I'd heard footsteps. Or how the screen on my bedroom window looked slightly off last week, but I assumed it was the wind. Now I wasn't so sure. The next morning I stopped for gas on the way to work. While I waited at the pump, I crouched to tie my shoe and noticed something stuck to the underside of my car, just behind the front wheel. It was a small black box. I didn't know what it was at first, but when I looked up the brand and model number, my stomach dropped. It was a GPS tracker. I drove straight to my parents' house and haven't gone back to my apartment since. I filed a report and handed the tracker over to the police. Whether they'll actually do anything, I don't know. I've changed my number again, got a different car. I even started driving a different route to work and stopped sharing my location with anyone. But there's still a part of me that feels like he's out there, just waiting. Like this was only phase 1 of whatever he thinks he's building toward. The fire alarm in my apartment building went off 4 times in 10 days, always between 2 and 3 a.m. The first time I didn't think much of it. False alarms happen. I threw on a jacket over my pajamas, grabbed my keys and phone, and waited outside with everyone else while the fire department walked through the building. No fire, no explanation. The second time was 3 nights later, same hour, same drill. A few of us made eye contact out front, too tired to complain. Management sent out a generic email the next morning, saying maintenance would look into the issue. By the third time, I was running on fumes. I barely even got out of bed, just stood in the stairwell in my slippers, leaning against the wall while the alarm screamed. I had early meetings the next day and could already feel the tension behind my eyes. That's when I started to wonder if someone was screwing around, just pulling the alarm for the hell of it. No one else seemed amused. When it happened again the following week, I stayed inside. I don't know why exactly. I just had a gut feeling. I stood by the peephole and waited while the alarm blared through the building. After a minute or two, the hallway cleared out. Everyone had shuffled outside again. And that's when I saw him, Mason, my ex. He came out of the stairwell at the far end of the hallway, hoodie pulled up and mask on. He didn't look at any of the doors, just walked casually down the hall like he belonged there. But I recognized his walk immediately. I had lived with that walk. I could have picked it out of a lineup. He didn't knock or try anything, just passed by and disappeared down the next stairwell. And that's when it clicked. He was the one pulling the alarms. I stood there, weirdly calm, not scared, just drained. Because of course it was him. Not because he wanted to scare me. That wasn't his style. He just wanted to mess with me in the most inconvenient, disruptive way possible. Classic Mason. I hadn't seen or spoken to him in months. I'd blocked him on everything. He wasn't dangerous, just exhausting. The kind of guy who always needs a way to remind you he existed, even if it meant waking up a whole building just to make your life slightly worse. I recorded him through the peephole, sent the video to building management, and filed a report. He got a trespassing citation, nothing serious, but the alarm stopped after that, and I haven't seen him since. Still, I added a camera to my door, started parking a little further away. I keep my blinds closed at night now. Not because I'm afraid. Because now I know he's the kind of person who thinks being a nuisance counts as staying in someone's life.